Welcome. All you're gonna need is a pillow and the ground. And if you want, you can use a mat or you could use a blanket underneath you. So whatever you have available and whatever is comfortable for you. The pillow I'm using is quite squishy but full, so you want something with a little bit of height if possible. But any pillow will be okay. And we're gonna start off just coming to lie with our belly over the pillow and wiggle forward to the point where your ribs are not on the pillow anymore. And then just allow your elbows to go out wide. Make a little pillow with your hands and let your head rest on your hands, either with your head turned one way or with your forehead down. So just take a moment to get comfortable. And just allowing the body to rest into the ground and feel how the pillow just creates the slightest compression into the front of the body and the belly. And a sense of containment through the front of the body. And I often think of the front of the body as this lens through which we communicate and we receive a lot of information through the front, through our eyes, through our kind of perceptive front body. And so just allowing that lens to rest. We don't have to receive any information from the outside right now, nor do we need to communicate outwardly. And so that frontal lens of our body can simply rest into the support of the ground. The muscles of the face can soften. The bones can be heavy. The tissues can drape down. The skin can be heavy. And it's as if energetically we could just allow a sense of settling or inner organization. A sense of a downward pouring. And so any agitation or frantic energy, sense of fragmentation, as if our energy could just slowly sift down through the inner waters to the floor of the ocean, where it can rest and release into the ground. And then on the other side of the spectrum, from agitation, there's fatigue or sluggishness. And just allowing the fatigue to drape forth from your body into the ground and to be held. And so this opportunity to simply be, nothing to do, nowhere to go, nothing to figure out. Just to give your system time and space and quiet. And if you have your head turned one way, really slowly turn your head the opposite way. And start to just allow your attention to meet your breath. Just simple awareness. As I breathe in, I know that I'm breathing in. As I breathe out, I know that I'm breathing out. as your attention rests on your breath, it will very naturally start to find this path of least resistance, or the easiest path to move through. And imagine as the tissues start to realize that we're resting on the ground and we're not rushing away, that unholding of the tissues creates spaciousness through which the breath can move. So more and more of our cells becoming available to the breath. Very slowly from there, just starting to nudge the floor away with your forearms. Wiggle your elbows in underneath your shoulders and bring your hands together. And just let your head drape down. So it's a very drapey Sphinx pose. Just allowing the front of the body to drape down towards the ground, and the upper arm bones are like the scaffolding that are keeping you upright, but everything else is just draping heavy into the flow of gravity. And as the front of the belly softens down, the organs of the belly, the digestive organs, just resting into the front of the body. And seeing if you could soften through your mouth. Release the tongue, release the jaw, heavy cheeks. Let your head release down, let your brain be heavy in your skull. And then slowly start to walk your elbows back a little bit, and keeping that drapiness through the front, just press all the way back. Use your hands on the floor to support you. Bring your knees in a little closer, and then draw your pillow up onto your thighs. And imagine you're going up and over with your belly to come into a child's pose. And in this child's pose, you could keep your elbows on the floor and just let your head dangle down. You could create a little pillow with your hands. Or if you have a brick or 2 fists underneath your forehead, works as well. And again, the pillow just creating this slight compression through the abdominal region. And it just creates this sense of containment or a snugness. It can be very soothing. And just feeling now in this position, when the front of the body is condensed a little bit, the breath naturally tends to travel into the back of the lungs a little more easily. And just inviting that drapiness, as if the skin could drape down. The bones release their weight. How much of my body can I make available to my breathing? And allowing the breath to be unefforted, no struggle. And then slowly press the floor away to gently lift on up and bring your pillow in front of you. Come to sit on your outer hip. Doesn't matter which way you go, just start off the direction that you can see me most easily. The knees are bent, and then we turn to face the pillow, and the pillow is vertically arranged on our mat. And we're going to walk our hands forward a little bit, And if this feels too low for you, I would encourage you to get a second pillow, or if you're working with a bolster, you can also work with a bolster underneath your pillow to add more height, okay? See how you go. We're gonna just allow our torso to drape over our pillow, and then I like to take my hands underneath my pillow so that my hands end up being underneath the side of my head, so that my head has this slightly raised place to rest. And then just wiggling your legs to a very comfortable position. And so your face is turning the same way as your knees. And just allowing there to be a little bit of wiggling around until you find a comfortable place to pause. So there's this very slight rotation through the spine. You might need to play. You can hug your knees a little closer in. You can have your legs a little further away. One leg on top of the other, or one leg in front of the other. And then see if you could allow your cheeks to get really heavy. A sense of space in the belly, so the belly has an opportunity to be unheld, to digest. And just noticing as you stay here that the breath can start to get a little quieter. As the belly softens a little bit more and a little bit more. And just noticing the small ebbs and flows and tiny sensations that are ongoing beneath the surface of the skin. And to drop into this place where you're simply perceptive, you're simply receiving that flow of sensory information. And then slowly rooting down through your hands. You're going to support yourself to come all the way up onto that outer hip. Roll around onto your butt so now your back is facing your pillow. Step your feet in, hug your arms around your legs, and just let your forehead or your cheeks or your chin rest down towards or onto your knees. So using the slowness and using the proximity to the ground to just invite this inner organization and energy to find its way to the ground so that it can be absorbed and digested. Very slowly unfurling and just turning onto the outer hip, the opposite side. And as you just shuffle in really close to your pillow, your knees are bent. Bring your hands either side of your pillow, and then remember you're going to face the same way as your knees. I bring my hands underneath my pillow, but you could take your hands a little further out if you like. And then just snuggling in. And again, playing with the layout of your legs. So you could lengthen the legs out long, you could hug them closer in, you could have the top leg forward or back. So just playing around until you feel like you can pause for a moment there. Resting into the simplicity. And so when we're growing, before we have the capacity to move outwardly, all we really have is this internal sponging and pulsation of fluids. So our ability to be precedes our ability to do. And sometimes as adults we can get so caught up in the doing that the being becomes like a difficult place to be, maybe an uncomfortable place to be. And so using this time to cultivate relationship to being. And what if you just allow your attention to sink beneath the surface of your skin into that fluid world? The pulsing, the sponging of fluid through the membranes of the cells. It's kind of a deep underlying hum of activity that we can access when we get very, very quiet outwardly. Your next few breaths, just very gently taking your time to support yourself back up. Rolling around so that again the back of your pelvis is facing the pillow, and this time just supporting yourself with your elbows to lay back onto your pillow, and depending on the length of your torso you might need to shuffle down a little bit so that your head is fully resting on the pillow. And then from there we're going to just allow the arms to drape out wide to the sides. And with the legs, you could take the feet wide and angle the toes in, rest the knees together. And this kind of broadens the space of the lower back a little bit. And just feeling now that support through the back of the body, meeting the pillow and the ground. And imagining that frontal lens of the body just receiving the spaciousness from above you, as if you could just soak in, sponge in that sense of spaciousness. And can you allow the muscles of your face to soften? In particular, the tiny muscles around and behind your eyes. As if your eyes could sink back into their sockets. As if your brain could sink back into the skull. And back of the body resting into the steadiness beneath. Front of the body receiving space. Easy breath pouring through. Very gently starting to roll to the side, and as you roll to the side, and just come off of the pillow and move the pillow out of the way, and then roll back onto your back and bring that pillow underneath the backs of your knees and stand your pillow up tall on its long edge so that as it settles down, you have a little bit of height beneath your knees. Let your heels slightly turn in and your toes slightly flop out. And then make any little adjustments so that you can rest. And if you're uncomfortable resting on your back, you could also rest on your side. And just dropping into that space and stillness. And if we could use the non-movingness to remember the stillness that came before our movement originally. When there really was nowhere to go and nothing to do. Where we were just these tiny embryos in a fluid environment. With this sponging and pulsing of fluid within our structure. And the sense now that any a sensation that you might get of agitation or impatience, if there's any of that kind of frantic energy moving through frantic thought patterns, can you imagine this sifting down like dirt moving down slowly through water to the bottom of that body of water, to the ground? This invitation to rest on the ground of our own being. As you just allow the weight to release through the feet, the lower legs, the upper legs, the pelvic halves, the sacrum, the lower spine, middle spine, upper spine and neck, your skull. Weight through the collarbones and shoulders, upper arms, lower arms and hands. As if you could receive the hug of gravity, the flow of gravity through every cell. And you remember the ground, you remember that here we are and we belong. And we're safe here. And we can simply be and breathe and build relationship to that beingness as a resource, inner resource for ourselves, an anchor we can return to. Very slowly, in your own time, stepping your feet up onto your pillow and then hugging your knees into your chest, wrapping your arms around your legs. And then rolling to your side, either side, supporting yourself with your hands to come up to a seat. Your head is the last thing to lift. Any comfortable seat is fine. Maybe keep your eyes closed. As you come to sit, just resting one hand to belly, one hand to chest. Just feeling the quiet weight of your hands soothing that frontal lens. And sensing from the front of the body all the way through to the back of the body. And leaning ever so slightly into the support of that back body. And the upper hand lowers, the lower hand lifts, hands find each other in prayer and bowing head. And we'll finish there. Thank you.